Hi everyone. This lecture today is going to be about professionalism in massage therapy. As with most of this class, we're going to pull a lot from your Mosby's Fundamentals, and that will be the 8th edition. All right, as we dive into talking about being a professional in the massage therapy field, let's make sure we're all on the same page of the definitions. So, a profession is defined as an occupation or vocation that requires training and specialized study of a complex set of knowledge and skills through formal education or practical experience. An occupation is productive or creative activity that serves as your regular source of livelihood or income. A vocation is a strong altruistic motivation to follow a specific occupational career pathway. Say you had a family member die of cancer, you want to become an oncology doctor, something that you are called to do, all right? Vocational education trains for an occupation. A professional is a person who engages in a profession and is committed to adhering to the standards expected of a qualified and experienced person in that particular work environment, like a tax professional specializes in taxes. And professionalism is the adherence to professional status, method, standards, and character. Right, something to keep in mind is that your actions as a professional in the massage therapy field actually affect the entire industry, the entire massage profession. If we hear a news story that someone burned their client with hot stones or they were arrested for prostitution, all we hear usually is that a massage therapist did these actions, and then it reflects on the industry as a whole. Another thing to keep in mind, especially in the world of social media, that as professionals, even when you are not at work and you are in your own personal space, on your own Facebook page or whatever social media channel that you're using, and you are just speaking as yourself, if people know that you are a massage therapist, that you have your own business, or that you represent a particular spa that you work for, when you are out in public view, your actions still reflect upon you as a therapist and on the company that you represent. So there have been a ton of people that have said something heinous online. They've been called out for it, and their job has subsequently fired them for it. You are selling yourself in the massage office. It is you privately in a room with someone else touching their body. It's a very intimate setting. If you do something that is considered extremely untoward, or clients are not going to want to interact with you, it affects you, it affects your company, and it reflects on the image of the massage profession as well. So that is something to think about going into the service industry. Another thing to keep in mind about the massage profession is that it is legally recognized by licensure. You need to get a state license in the state of Michigan. If you want to travel throughout the US, most of the states have their own version of licensing. Most of them are accepting the MBLEX, and you should be able to apply for a transfer without too much difficulty between graduating from a Michigan school and passing that MBLEX. There are some states without licensing, but they do require their own local permits. Even after you do get a state license, you may be required to get a city permit as well in that local municipality. All right. There are credentialing. There are some things to keep in mind with credentialing. Certification is not the same thing as licensing. So in California, they have voluntary certification that kind of acts like licensing because a lot of people want you to have it. When you graduate from school, you will get a certification. That does not mean that you are licensed and legal to work, though, in the state of Michigan. A lot of insurance and employers require proof of training as well, even if you don't have the license yet. Some of them do require you to also have the license. So please be aware, if you do get licensed in the state of Michigan or are licensed in another state and want to move to Michigan, every state has their own licensure laws regarding massage therapy. All right. Another thing you can do as a massage therapist is get verification of advanced training with board certification through the NCB, TMB. I can absolutely help my students with that if you're interested. This is something that is optional, but it definitely shows that you do have more advanced training. You are willing to take on more continuing education, and you're able to demonstrate competency in a specialty area. Back in the day, when I initially got this, it was still called national certification. That is no longer the case. It is now board certification. You can also become a member in a professional association. I know the big ones right now are ABMP and AMTA. I personally have been a member with AMTA for nearly 20 years. I think it's a great organization. I do wish that the organizations would work more collaboratively instead of competitively. We would get some more things done in terms of massage research, but it is what it is. Massage therapy as a profession. Does massage therapy meet the criteria of a profession? And it kind of does. You don't need an academic degree, but you will get occupational education. You do get certification before licensure in most cases. Um, there is an educational standard in licensing, but it is still not yet a national standard. So there is some argument there. Even with terms and classifications like advanced massage, medical massage, there is still no current exact consensus on what these definitions are. Even in the case of massage, massage is different from massage therapy, which is different from massage therapy practice. Massage by itself is a pattern and purposeful soft tissue manipulation using your digits, your hands, forearms, or you can use an external apparatus that mimics the use of the body for the intent of therapeutic change. Whereas massage therapy is all of these things plus health promotion and educational messages. And then there's massage therapy practice, which is everything within your scope of practice, including your professional standards and ethics. And you need to continue going through this process. You not only assess the client and provide the massage therapy, you now also offer a plan of care. You continually reassess and reevaluate your client, and you continuously reassess and reevaluate yourself to continue the education in your practice to provide excellent service and safe service to your clientele. Right, so now you got your certification from school, you've got your licensure from the state. Now what else can you do? Well, you can do everything within the scope of practice of a massage therapist, but if you want to branch out and go and do a little bit more detailed work, say in prenatal massage, or if you want to get certified in something like reflexology in order to offer that specialization is what you were looking for. This is a step beyond entry level, and you gain additional knowledge and skills that will expand your scope of practice, as well as giving you additional certifications in what you are interested in doing. So in Michigan, the scope of practice for massage therapists, of course, includes manual soft tissue manipulation, all of the different movements that you can do by your hands, feet, elbows, forearms, or approved tools that must mimic massage therapy done by a person. We are not allowed to use any type of electrical stimulation that you can in Florida or could in Florida at least a decade ago as a massage therapist. There are other things that you are not allowed to use, such as ultrasound, laser that you might be able to in other states. You can use cupping, you can use hot stones, you can use hydrotherapy and massage guns, but you cannot do anything that would be an electrical device in the state of Michigan. You can assess client needs. Of course, you'll always need to do your intake forms. You can do postural assessments. You can identify contraindications, but you cannot diagnose. You can provide self-care recommendations, but you cannot prescribe anything for them to do. You can suggest stretches, hydrotherapy, or different adjustments in their daily life. But you cannot do anything other than education and suggestion. You cannot tell them that these are things that they have to do. You will never override their doctor or their physical therapist. You can collaborate with them in a healthcare team, but as physicians, as diagnosing individuals or prescribing individuals, you need to go along with their assessment and knowledge base of the situation. Now, we've already covered some of these prohibited actions, what LMTs cannot do, but this also includes things like performing joint manipulations. You are not a chiropractor. No needlework like acupuncture or dry needling. You are not an acupuncturist. All right. You need to be separately licensed and offering that service as that license allows you to do. That is not within the scope of practice of a massage therapist. No cutting, no puncturing. No internal pelvic or rectal massage can be performed, and you cannot bill services as physical therapy. You can use manual therapy and massage therapy codes, but you cannot claim to rehabilitate injuries and put that on your insurance forms because you are not PTs or PTAs. The MBLEX might ask you who decides the limits of the scope of practice or the licensure, and that would be your state government. So, along with scope of practice, we have something that is called standard of care. Standard of care is the assessment and treatment process that a massage therapist follows based on all other qualified practitioners and the standard to which we should be providing care to our clients. This is the knowledge base that we are receiving. We're staying on top of cutting edge information as it pertains to healthcare in the state of Michigan, and we are treating those clients with a bare minimum standard of care. All right, the other thing we have here is informed consent. This is actually a protection process for the consumer, the client, the patient. This is where clients are to be educated to understand what is going to happen in the massage room, why it is being suggested to happen, that they are going to be participating in it, and that they are competent and able to give consent to that treatment. All right, so we have talked about code of ethics before, but just to touch on it again quickly, a code of ethics is an agreed upon set of behaviors that is developed to promote high standards of practice. Ethical conduct is adherence to confidentiality, like HIPAA, which we have talked about regarding client health information, maintaining those appropriate professional, physical, and emotional boundaries, and avoiding dual relationships that could compromise objectivity, especially when it comes to understanding power differential in the therapist-client relationship. All right, so client-centered care is conducting thorough intake consultations to understand medical history, preferences, contraindications. We get to know what the client is experiencing, why we're going to be working on them, what their goals are for massage. Then we're going to customize those treatments based on our client's needs. We're going to obtain informed consent before performing any techniques to make sure that the client is enthusiastically agreeing to these procedures. Another huge part of professionalism is hygiene and safety, all right? Keeping the treatment space clean. This means actually sanitizing your tables, always having fresh linens, proper ventilation in the room as well. Please make sure you are dusting your fans and ceiling fans. Maintaining personal hygiene, clean hands, cleaning out underneath your nails, trimming your nails, definitely, wearing professional attire, and also following proper infection control protocols such as disinfecting surfaces and proper hand washing. Always, always, always wash your hands. Wipe your doorknobs. Make sure you're cleaning counter surfaces, pens, anything that clients are touching on a frequent basis. This would be the top of your trash cans, spray off the toilet handle, everything along that line. This also includes things like not wearing excessive perfume or cologne, wearing gloves and using mouthwash if you're going to be smoking in between clients for whatever reason, or eating something, filled potentially with a very scented food like onions or garlic. Please keep these things in mind. Not only do they affect the health and safety of both you and your client, but also how your client perceives your office as a professional space. Above and beyond everything else, we are supposed to create a safe place for our clients. Safe is defined as not apt to cause danger, harm, or hurt, or to be free of risk. All right, physiologically speaking, for our clients, that means maintaining a state of homeostasis rather than having fight or flight responses of the sympathetic autonomic nervous system. So we want to keep our clients calm. We want to get them in that parasympathetic autonomic nervous system response. We want to make sure that they feel safe. We're not talking loud. We're not startling them. We're not jolting them by taking our hands off and on their body. We're not immediately dropping a cold or incredibly hot stone on their body. We are maintaining consistent pressure. Low level tone when speaking to them, and a non jarring environment as well. All right, so professional appearance and demeanor. This falls in line with hygiene and safety. You're going to wear clean, appropriate attire. You're not going to drown in cologne. You should wear closed-toed shoes. Quite honestly, most clients laying in a face cradle do not want to look down and see and smell your toes. Use polite, respectful communication, such as active listening. You're going to avoid gossip, which could be considered defamation, which we'll talk about later, and you're going to manage your time effectively, which means starting on time. Do not be late to your client's massage therapy appointment, but also end them on schedule. Make sure you're giving them their entire time that they have paid you for. As professionals, we are going to stay updated with our skills and competencies, which means staying updated with continuing education. Now, we are required, I believe at this time, it's 24 credits every 3 years. With Michigan State, it's even more if you are board certified in order to maintain that certification and the state licensure. So please keep that in mind, but also working within the scope of practice, all right? We're not going to diagnose what we think is going on with our clients. We're going to adjust pressure and techniques based on client feedback and on our increased body of knowledge. As professionals, we need to maintain business integrity. This means clear pricing and policies, telling them the cancellation fee if they're going to be charged if they no show, or if they show up late, they're not going to get their full time, what you will and will not do for refunds. You're going to use honest marketing. So you're not going to claim that massage or your products have health benefits that they do not. All right, proper documentation needs to be kept. It needs to be kept a minimum of 7 years in the state of Michigan. We will talk about that when we discuss documentation in detail. But soap notes, you absolutely should keep those on hand. If you're working for a spa that does not require them, I would personally keep one for yourself if they allow you. Also, persona documents. What kind of music, what scent does your client like? That way you can look them up when they're coming in for the next one and be like, oh yeah, she hates pianos, but she loves the sound of rain, and she likes lavender, but really loves peppermint. These are the things that I need to set aside to offer during the massage based on her previous preferences. This will make you seem magical in the eyes of your clients and keep them coming back to you again and again. You need to handle difficult situations in a professional manner. So, if a client is showing extreme discomfort, either physically or emotionally, with some type of sensitivity, especially during the massage session, you need to be able to handle that. You need to be able to manage complaints or misunderstanding calmly. You need to be able to explain your position, but also have the emotional intelligence to understand where your client is coming from. Knowing when and how to refer clients to other healthcare providers is also necessary. If a client needs something outside of your scope of practice, or maybe within your scope of practice, technically legally, but not within your knowledge base or your skill level, you should always refer them. I tell my students all the time, when in doubt, refer them out. Legal compliance, all right? We need to hold our proper licensing. We need to have our certification as required. You need to carry liability insurance. And you also need to follow sexual harassment prevention protocols, which in the state of Michigan is absolutely zero tolerance for inappropriate behavior. Not only is this bad on the client, it will affect you because, again, it is always the professional's responsibility what occurs in the massage therapy office, and you will potentially not only lose your license, but face legal action. So the other thing to keep in mind is credentialing. Credentials are a form of official verification that is earned by completing an educational or examination process that confirms a certain level of expertise in any given skill. So the only credentials required for the practice of therapeutic massage are those specified by government agencies. In this case, that would be your state license in Michigan. All others are voluntary. The board certification, um, that is voluntary. Any workshops or certification that you get done in reflexology, in acupressure, in aromatherapy, which you really need to take extra classes on aromatherapy and essential oils for safety if you want to go down that road. But these are all voluntary. The only thing that you are legally required to have, but you have to stay within that scope of practice, is your license with the state of Michigan. So continuing with credentialing, there are a lot of organizations and training programs that have developed their own certificates. It's a little bit different than being certified. It is a certification, but you are not certified. Anyone can offer a private certificate. When you become a continuing educator, if you feel like doing that in the future, or if you open up a school, you can certify someone or give them a certificate or a diploma of completion of a program or a class. This has no legal value, but it is important and it does verify ongoing education. Okay, so what is the difference between a certificate and certification? So a certification just provides recognition of the completion of a class or that you've learned a set of skills. Certification recognizes professionals who meet established knowledge, skills, or competencies. This is usually done in a larger organization or a membership affiliation, something like AMTA, ABMP, NCBTMB for us massage therapists. This is who we would go to get an actual certification in something versus a certificate of completion for going to a class. It is unethical to say that you are certified after taking a course when you have actually simply received a certificate of completion. There is a difference. One is usually a shorter course, which does give you additional information and skills, but a certification implies a wider body of knowledge, usually an examination process, and you need to keep recertifying to prove that you have kept up with that certification body of knowledge throughout your career. All right, laws and legislation. We keep saying that the only legally required thing to practice massage in the state of Michigan is going to be your massage license. The main purpose of this law or ordinance is to protect the safety and welfare of the public. Your massage therapy license proves that you have the bare minimum body of knowledge to keep the public safe while doing the actions described in the scope of practice for a massage therapist in the state of Michigan. All right, everyone, state versus local regulation. We know that we need our state license, but who else is controlling us? We've got licensing boards like the State Massage Board that oversees the licensure. They set the rules, they investigate complaints to protect public safety and report to the state. We've got the Federation of State Massage Therapy Boards that has created the MBLEX that most of the states in the United States now use as a standardized licensing exam. All right. We also have local government controls. Your town may want you to do specific things about massage. There are zoning laws. That means that if it is zoned residential or commercial industrial, you may not be able to open up a service office of any type there, whether it's a salon, nail place, massage, any of these things. You may not be able to open a restaurant in the area. There are also outdated anti-prostitution laws. I know I've mentioned this in a previous lecture, but that's why my office is where it is and not by the Blue Water Bridge next to Ontario, where I originally wanted to purchase and open up a clinic office. And that is because they regard it as adult entertainment in Port Huron still, versus where I currently am, where I am right across the street from a church, because they do not view it as adult entertainment. If you want to work within your home, you may require a special permit, a separate entrance that is different from your main home entrance. You may need to face safety compliance with your building structure. And of course, you always need to align with state licensing and what those things entail. It has not occurred here in Michigan since I have been licensed here, but I do know that in the state of Florida, as a healthcare license, massage therapist very frequently had surprise visitation to make sure that your linens were stored properly, that you had proper disinfectants and sanitization procedures in place, and that your office was clean, much like we inspect restaurants from the health department. In other states, they also inspect massage therapy offices to make sure that you are meeting the bare minimum requirements to keep yourself and the public safe. All right, as professionals, how do we deal with suspected unethical or illegal behavior? All right, we're going to address anything that might be a violation of standard of practice, but first we're going to do some self-reflection. Do I dislike this client or my coworker, or is this really an ethical dilemma or something disrupting the health and safety of me or my clientele? You can always go to your mentor or peer support to get information before you go report it to the authorities if you're unsure of the situation. But until you have to legally disclose things like names, make sure that you are maintaining the confidentiality of everyone involved. Depending on how serious the situation is, you might need to formally report it, either through a professional organization like NCB, TMB, if someone is teaching something unethically, or to the state board if someone is practicing without a license or doing something illegal with their clients, or your supervisor if it's something that your coworker is doing. Litigation is the process of a lawsuit. A lawsuit is a legal action that starts to occur in court, right? The person or party that institutes the suit in the court is the plaintiff, and the person accused of the wrongdoing is the defendant. So if a client takes you to court for negligence, the client is the plaintiff, you are the defendant, and other people in the massage office will most likely also be named as defendants, a fact witness, or an expert witness in the legal proceedings. All right, I said, what if you get sued for negligence? What is negligence? It's one of two things. Negligence is the performance of an act that a reasonably careful person under similar circumstances would not do, or the failure to perform an act that a reasonably careful person would do. So, in the case of massage therapy, this could be a client repeatedly telling you that they have a pacemaker, and you just continuously give them heavy cross fiber friction in that area and potentially dislodge a wire. You need to prove that there was a failure to meet a standard of care, or that the standard not being met led to an injury of that client. That would be a prime example of that. So the Good Samaritan law is pretty cool. This has passed in my lifetime, thank goodness. This is an immunity of sorts for people that are rendering care in emergency situations. An example of this would be if your client had a heart attack getting off the table, they've collapsed on the floor. Now you're performing CPR until the ambulance arrives, and you accidentally crack their rib by performing this CPR. This prevents them from being able to sue you for cracking that rib accidentally in the process of trying to save their life. So malpractice is a little bit different than negligence because it means any wrongdoing by a professional. It can be unintentional or intentional. In the example I gave earlier with negligence, the client keeps telling the therapist, hey, I have a pacemaker. I have a pacemaker. and the therapist just isn't listening and continues to do this cross fiber fiction. That's negligence, but dislodging a wire because of what you're physically doing to their body could also be determined to be malpractice. There's also defamation of character we brought up earlier. Defamation of character is the communication of false information to a third party, especially something that results in an injury to that person's reputation. This can be verbal, which is slander, or written, which is libel. All right. You could really dislike your coworker and then start telling people that the shea butter lotion that she makes and sells doesn't work and it's actually dehydrating to the skin, or she stole the recipe from somebody else, or that she doesn't bother to renew her license. If it's not true, you are lying, and that is slander. Absolutely. You are going to cause injury to that person's information because you are spreading false information. All right, so invasion of privacy is a little bit interesting. This isn't just um, asking too many invasive questions of someone. This usually is referring to prying into the private life of someone, or um, pretending to be someone for commercial use, or using their private life information publicly when they have not given you permission to do so. You need to remember any information a client gives you or the staff remains confidential within the office. This could be an example of a client who's a celebrity or a relative of a celebrity coming into your office, really liking your massages and rebooking with you. And now you advertise by publicly stating so and so comes as a common, consumer here and absolutely loves it. They're a repeat client. If they have not given you express information to give out that information, then you cannot give out their name and the treatments that they get at your office. Computer security, I'm not going to wax poetic about it. We all know, hopefully, at least a little bit about computer security. Remember that we do need to have passcodes and have our software locked down that has any type of our client information in it. But make sure that your office is not using pirated software. That's usually one of the biggest issues, is using illegal copies of data recording software, spa software, membership generators for clientele, things of that nature. When it comes to medical files, making changes in a confidential file without authorized permission constitutes not only being unethical, but possibly an illegal act. You cannot change information in a digital medical file whatsoever. You just need to notate that incorrect information was put in, but you cannot delete anything. That would actually be a crime. Speaking of crime, another crime is fraud. Fraud is a deception that is deliberately practiced to secure unfair or unlawful gain. In the case of massage therapy, that happens a lot with misrepresentation for billing for insurance purposes. This actually happened to me. I was working for a chiropractor, somewhat fresh out of school, and the office manager there was billing 3 or 4 units. A unit is a 15-minute measurement of massage therapy time. She was billing for 45 or 1 hour massages, and I was only giving them 30-minute massages in most cases for these appointments. So she was committing fraud by billing for 45 minutes or for 60 minutes versus the 30 minutes, in some cases doubling the income for that massage therapy session. But she was also committing identity theft. She was signing those documents with my name, stating that I was verifying that I was massaging them for 45 or 60 minutes. So this is something definitely to watch out for if you are in a practice that does third-party payments of any type, that there is no type of fraud being done, especially in your name. Right, as professionals, we want to network with other professionals. And when you graduate from school and get licensed, you're suddenly going to start competing with experienced massage therapists. You're going to be competing against them for clients, for a job, for status within the industry. What is going to set you apart? What type of things influence your career skills and get you noticed out in the field? Well, you need to behave in an ethical and responsible manner. And your massage skills need to be excellent. You can learn those. But what you also need to learn is how to communicate effectively, which also includes being quiet. All right, in the office setting with your clientele when they're in the room, you need to make responsible decisions about client care as well as your peer and professional relationships. Remember, we said earlier, anything that you do in public in your personal life is going to start reflecting on you in your professional life. Because believe me, a lot of these companies will investigate who you represent yourself to be in places like online social media. All right. Always conduct yourself professionally. Being professional will give you an advantage over those who do not prioritize professionalism. Right. On a final note, the good and the bad of it is that when it comes to the massage industry, very often the complaint is not about your lack of technical skill, and it is not about not having enough body of knowledge on something that you are performing and ending up with a malpractice or negligence case. Usually, it's some type of ethical dilemma that is occurring in the office, either between the therapist and the client or the therapist and someone else in the company. All right. Having excellent decision making skills by using critical thinking and problem solving and effective communication and appropriate conflict management skills are going to be the most valuable tools that you have to navigate through this terrain. Okay. We're going to talk about conflict management in another lecture, as well as different types of communication skills. And as with any of them, if you are new to all of this, you're going to feel a little bit awkward and uncomfortable at first, but that's okay. Change can't happen until you start to grow, all right? Like every crustacean, every lobster and crab out there, you have to physically grow bigger to be able to crack open that old tiny shell to be able to get a newer, larger, nicer one, okay? I will see you guys on the next one.